It was a sweltering morning in a small town in the interior of São Paulo called Ribeirão Preto. Mariana, a 34-year-old woman, worked as a teacher at a local school. She had been married to Gustavo for 12 years, a charming man, but distant in recent months. For Mariana, the signs were becoming clear. Gustavo was hiding something. The relationship, once passionate, had turned cold and filled with silences. One Friday night, after Mariana had lovingly prepared dinner, Gustavo came home with a severe expression. He avoided looking into her eyes, and after a few minutes of tension in the air, he exploded. Gustavo, cold and direct. "Mariana, I think you've already noticed, but we can't go on like this. I want you to leave the house. It's over." Mariana felt the ground fall out from under her. She never imagined her life would crumble so quickly. Mariana, confused and in shock. What do you mean leave the house? Gustavo, we can talk, please. What's going on?" He, unfeeling, gave little explanation. He only repeated that the marriage was over and that she should leave as soon as possible. Mariana, with no alternatives, packed some clothes and left, still not fully understanding what had happened. She stayed at a friend's house. 2 days later, Gustavo received a mysterious letter in his mailbox, written in shaky handwriting, "You will be dead within 10 days." When Gustavo read the letter, he initially laughed. To him, it seemed like a bad joke, maybe something Mariana did out of revenge or even some sort of anonymous threat. However, as the days passed, the idea started to creep into his mind. He began to notice strange things around him. Phone calls where no one spoke, shadows that seemed to move through the house at night, and a growing sense of paranoia. In a casual encounter on the street, Gustavo ran into Mariana. She was visibly shaken but tried to maintain her dignity. Mariana, trying to be strong. "Are you happy now? You got what you wanted, Gustavo. Now I can move on with my life, I hope." Gustavo, uncomfortable and nervous. "Look, Mariana, I don't know what you want, but enough, okay? Let's move on." Mariana, not understanding the accusation, just shook her head and walked away. Gustavo began to question himself. Had she sent the letter? Was she behind the strange things happening? As Gustavo sank deeper into his suspicions, the nights became unbearable. Every night he woke up sweaty, hearing whispers, knocks on the window, and feeling like he was not alone in the house. One night, he woke up to a loud knock on the door. When he opened it, there was no one there, just another letter. 5 days left. He decided to confront Mariana once and for all, convinced that she knew something. He drove to her apartment, banging hard on the door. Gustavo, furious and desperate, "Open up, Mariana. I know it's you. Stop this. You're driving me crazy." She opened the door, surprised. Mariana, scared. "What are you talking about? I don't know what you're accusing me of, Gustavo. I didn't do anything." Gustavo, shouting, "These letters, these strange things. You think you can play with this, leave me like this?" Tired of the accusations and feeling the pain of the separation, she just shut the door in his face. The tension escalated. Gustavo began to see his world crumble, his life spiraling out of control. As the days approached the final deadline given by the letter, Gustavo was on the verge of a breakdown. He couldn't sleep. His mind was a whirlwind of paranoia, and his life seemed out of control. His work was suffering, friends started to drift away, and he became more and more isolated. The fear that something truly terrible would happen began to consume him. On the 7th day, Gustavo decided to go to the police. He explained about the letters, the strange situations he had been experiencing, but the officers treated him with skepticism. Uninterested policeman, "Look, Mr. Gustavo, this just seems like a bad joke. Probably some prank, but if it continues, let us know. He left the station feeling powerless. When he returned home, he found the third letter, this time more direct. 2 days left. Now panic completely consumed him. He began to convince himself that Mariana was not involved, but that something much bigger, much more dangerous, was at play. It was as if an invisible force was closing in on him, threatening his very existence. On the morning of the 9th day, Gustavo decided to seek help from a private detective. The detective, named Paulo, began investigating all of Gustavo and Mariana's connections, trying to understand who could have sent the letters. Then Paulo discovered something that changed everything. Gustavo had been secretly having an affair with a co-worker named Vittoria, which Mariana never knew about. Paulo revealing the truth. I don't know if this has anything to do with the letters, but I found out you were cheating on your wife, right? Someone could have found out and is blackmailing you. Gustavo visibly shaken. I didn't think that was relevant, but do you think it could be Vittoria? She's always been a bit unstable. The suspicion about Vittoria became the new focus. Gustavo called her but got no answer. That night he received one last letter. 12 hours left. The clock was ticking and Gustavo felt the end was near. With only 12 hours remaining, Gustavo was on the verge of total collapse. He didn't know whom to trust. The guilt for his actions consumed him, and the enigmatic letters were destroying what was left of his sanity. Desperate, he decided to confront Vittoria in person. He got in his car and went to her apartment, seeking answers. Upon arrival, he knocked hard on the door. After a few seconds, Vittoria opened it, looking surprised but also tense. Vittoria nervous. Gustavo, what are you doing here at this hour? You're scaring me. Gustavo desperate and confused. Vittoria, please, I need you to be honest with me. Are you behind these letters? Did someone find out about us and is threatening me? I feel like I'm being hunted. Vittoria stepped back, shocked. Vittoria visibly offended. Do you think I would do this after everything? Gustavo, you used me, tossed me aside, and now you want to blame me for this madness. I'm not your enemy. Gustavo felt the guilt sink in even deeper. He realized that he was destroying everyone around him, mainly due to his own poor choices. He fell to his knees, defeated. Gustavo remorseful and emotional. I don't know what to do, Vittorius, I'm scared. If I die, it will be because I brought this upon myself. I betrayed Mariana, lied to you, and now I'm being punished. Despite everything, Vittoria felt compassion for him. She didn't love him anymore, but she saw the genuine desperation in his eyes. Vittoria, calm but firm. Maybe it's time to face your mistakes, Gustavo. You can't run from this forever. If someone is threatening you, you need to find out who it is. But above all, you need to face yourself. With those words, Gustavo realized he had lived in the shadow of his own lies and betrayals for far too long. The pain he had caused those around him was finally coming back to him. When he returned home, something had changed inside Gustavo. He knew he had to face what was coming, and somehow accept whatever came his way. On the 10th and final night, Gustavo felt a mixture of fear and resignation. Vittoria's words echoed in his mind. Face your mistakes. He knew he couldn't run anymore. The clock struck 11:30 p.m., and the silence in the house felt oppressive. The sound of rain hitting the window was the only noise as he prepared to face whatever was about to happen. Suddenly the lights flickered and went out. Thunder echoed in the sky, and the house was plunged into darkness. Gustavo's heart raced, and he felt like the moment had arrived. Trying to stay in control, he grabbed a flashlight and went to the front door. When he opened it, what he saw paralyzed him. At his gate, Mariana stood, completely soaked by the rain, holding a letter in her hands. She walked slowly towards him, her cold eyes fixed on his. Gustavo in shock. "Mariana, what are you doing here? What is going on?" She came closer, extending the letter. Mariana with a firm voice. "You're going to understand now, Gustavo. You're going to understand everything." Gustavo took the letter with trembling hands and opened it. As he read it, his legs almost gave out. It was a confession, a letter written by Mariana revealing that she had known about his affair with Victoria for months and that she had decided to exact silent revenge, creating a psychological terror around him. Mariana looking into his eyes. "You destroyed our life. You betrayed the trust I placed in you. But instead of yelling, of confronting you as you expected, I decided you would feel the weight of every lie, every deceit. I created the letters, the calls, the whispers. I wanted you to see what fear and guilt can do to a person." Gustavo remained silent, completely stunned. His mind couldn't process what he had just discovered. The woman he had underestimated, whom he had betrayed, had orchestrated everything. Gustavo with a trembling voice. "Mariana, I never imagined. Why? This was cruel." Mariana calm but with deep sadness. "Cruel? No, Gustavo. Cruel was what you did to me. I just gave you back a part of what I felt, but now it's over. Don't worry, you won't die. At least not physically. But part of you is already dead, and I'm the one who buried it." She turned and walked away, leaving Gustavo alone in the darkness, holding the letter and the painful truth. The 12 hours had ended, but for him, the real punishment had just begun. When Mariana disappeared into the night's darkness, Gustavo stood there unable to move. The weight of the revelation was overwhelming. He hadn't just lost the trust of the woman who loved him. He had been confronted in a way he never imagined. His mind was filled with regrets, but it was too late for any repair. Mariana had taken everything from him in a slow and calculated manner. In the days that followed, Gustavo tried to resume his routine, but everything felt empty. The guilt and loneliness consumed him. The house, once comfortable, now felt like a tomb of his own lies. Every corner reminded him of what he had lost due to his choices, and silence was his only constant companion. Mariana never contacted him again. The last thing he heard about her was that she had moved to another town, starting her life over without looking back. And Victoria, after learning everything, also abandoned him, realizing she had never truly been important to him. Gustavo understood painfully that Mariana's punishment wasn't physical but emotional. She had destroyed his trust and pride in the deepest way possible, leaving a mark he would carry forever. His life went on, but he would never be the same. Months later, Gustavo was just a shadow of the man he used to be. His life, once busy and full of ambitions, was now marked by monotony and loneliness. He sold the house where everything happened and moved to a small apartment in downtown Ribeirão Preto, trying to start over. But the past haunted him at every step. In a casual meeting with an old work friend, Gustavo was asked about his life. Curious and concerned friend. "You disappeared, man. What happened? Where's the Gustavo full of energy?" Gustavo with a distant and bitter look. "That Gustavo is dead, and I think it's for the best." He avoided talking about Mariana, about the letters, or about his infidelity. The weight of everything was still there, like an emotional scar he couldn't hide. Each day was a battle to deal with guilt and shame, but in some way, he accepted it as his new normal. As for Mariana, she was far away rebuilding her life. She started teaching in a new city called Sorocaba, made new friends, and gradually rediscovered her own happiness. For her, Gustavo and the pain he caused were now part of the past, a wound that, although deep, had healed. Gustavo never received another letter, but Mariana's words echoed in his mind every time he looked in the mirror. Part of you is already dead, and I'm the one who buried it. He knew that even though he was alive, an essential part of his soul had been lost forever that night. This was a story marked by betrayal, lies, and emotional revenge. Gustavo's journey shows us how selfish choices can destroy not only those we love, but also ourselves. He paid the price for his infidelity by seeing his life fall apart in an unexpected and terrifying way at the hands of the person who knew him best. If this story impacted you in any way, leave your comment below. We'd love to know how you felt watching this impressive twist. Subscribe to the Kollobe Inspired Stories channel so you don't miss more stories like this one. We tell both real and fictional stories, all with emotional and deep lessons. Share this video with friends who love a good mystery and betrayal story. Thank you for staying with us until the end. And don't forget, sometimes the consequences of our actions are deeper than we can imagine. We'll see you in the next video. Until then,